panic! No panic!
I am very much panicking here.
The cable's gonna snap!
Nate!
I got you!
Hold on tight, kid!
I got you!
It is a little strange to be reviewing Uncharted 4 again, but I welcome the opportunity. PlayStation shot me out a review copy of the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection, which compiles Uncharted 4 A Thief's End and Uncharted Lost Legacy, the side standalone adventure starring Nadine and Chloe Fraser. And man, it is a lot of fun to revisit these two very cool adventures, which feel, you know, very connected, but also distinct from one another. And it's a great kind of package to celebrate some of the great choices that the Uncharted team has made over the years. Uncharted 4 was a standout PlayStation 4 game, arguably one of the best looking PlayStation 4 games to ever get released, maybe up until things like Ghost of Tsushima and Naughty Dog's own The Last of Us Part 2, which eclipsed the beauty and the greatness of Uncharted 4 for sure. But still, this is really beautiful adventuring that we get to do in this game. Uncharted 4 is a bit of an interesting tale because it kind of bookends the life of Nathan Drake in a way. We get to see him as a young boy who has this brother named Sam, who he kind of learns the ropes of being a thief. There's no other way to say it. Basically, what he does is he sneaks into places and steals valuable artifacts and things like that. And his brother Sam kind of encourages him a little bit. We also saw in Uncharted 3 that Victor Sullivan was a great big influence on Nathan Drake as well, who had built-in skills by the time he and Sully had met, which also, you know, did something cool by going back into the past. And it's also very analogous to the way that we're going to see a younger Drake, played by Tom Holland in the new Uncharted film. So it's a great sort of mixture of all of these different eras of Nathan Drake when you jump into Uncharted 4, and I loved it. I mean, we get these flashback sequences where Drake and Sam are purposefully imprisoned. They've hooked up with this kind of nefarious rich dude named Rafe who's trying to make a name for himself, and they're trying to hunt down really elusive clues to find this great pirate treasure. And that's how the story begins, but we travel back in time and we see a young Nathan and a young Sam trying to grapple with their own history, which is murky and riddled with some sadness. We kind of get a really good understanding of the human that Nathan Drake is in Uncharted 4.
I'm gonna go ahead and do the dishes.
Stop, I'll do them. No,
You did them last night.
No, you cooked. I cleaned. It's fine.
And I caught that when I played it the first time on the PlayStation 4, but I think with this retrospective look back and after all of the incredible work that Naughty Dog has put into The Last of Us and, you know, the maturity that they were clearly grappling for with this game, it's really interesting to dive back in, particularly when you get to that epilogue sequence at the end of the game. Now, I'm not going to spoil too much, but suffice to say that in this game, you are going to travel around the world, you're going to crisscross and find all kinds of clues, you're going to interact with lots of great characters. Of course, Sully's in there and Elena's in there. And Rafe is a tremendous bad guy. I also like Nadine and the combat sequences that Nathan gets into with her, Nathan and Sam get into with her. And there are some spectacular visual effects like flames bursting and erupting out of buildings and Nathan having to kind of navigate through, you know, precarious footfall after precarious footfall. Everything is crumbling and falling apart. You can bet, actually, if you're controlling Nathan Drake and he makes a jump, wherever he lands, it's going to break. It's going to fall apart.
Holy shit!
You're going to bust through ceilings and watch bridges topple over. Even rock cliffs fall apart where Nathan Drake steps. But it's okay because he's got the amazing handholds and he's able to grapple up. And in this game, they introduced a whole cool Tarzan swinging mechanic or Batman swinging mechanic. They've got this grappling hook kind of deal, which lets them swing all over the damn place. Even in sequences in the game where you swing, you release, and then you throw the grapple hook out again and you swing again. So it's, you know, echoes of Tom Holland's Spider-Man in there as well, which is great. It's really fun to play. I think even more than that is this the cool story that's really well scripted and really well performed. I am so blown away by Troy Baker's performance as Sam, because up to this point we'd had so many iterations of Uncharted. We'd become very familiar with Nathan Drake, but Sam is introduced in this game, and his intonations and the way he coins phrases and the way he delivers his lines just is a perfect bookend to the way Nathan Drake speaks. And you can feel their love for each other and their competitive spirit with each other and their respect for each other and their disappointment in each other in certain points. It's really, really well made. I also love that Nathan Drake is really trying to turn over a new leaf in this game, and he's trying to be a good husband to Elena, who he has constantly let down through the series, you know? And there's some really heartfelt, interesting, tender moments in there. And also Victor Sullivan recognizing that don't screw it up with this woman, you know, be a good husband, deliver on the promises that you have. By this point in this franchise, we have gone on such a massive journey with these characters, so it really gets you in the heart.
I think we've actually taken a moment to step back and appreciate just how far we've come. Huh? Sic parvis magna.
Sic parvis magna.
Now, it doesn't have the punch, the gut punch, the emotional kind of resonance that the Last of Us games have. And I remember commenting on that when I reviewed this game back in 2016, and it's hard not to do that comparison, even though maybe it's not quite a fair one, because this is supposed to be lighthearted, adventuring, and you're still killing all the bad guys, but it isn't with the ferocity and the viciousness and the violence that we see out of The Last of Us, which also, honestly, adds to the emotional impact and the weight of that adventure in those games. And this is, you know, much more in the vein, obviously, of the Indiana Jones movies and lots of adventure-type films, action serials and stuff. So it is supposed to be goofier and lighter. And so it feels a little hemmed in because it wants to explore some darker themes and some heavier, kind of more palpably emotional moments. But it can't quite commit to that. It can't quite go all the way. It doesn't take away from the fun of the game. It doesn't disappoint with the large-scale set pieces, awesome chase sequences, great homages to Naughty Dog's past throughout this game. Man, I'm doing my best to dance around the spoilers, and I know that a lot of you have played this game already, and it's been around for a long time, and it's a super popular PlayStation 4 game, but I am kind of appealing to the few of you out there that might have a PlayStation 5 that have never enjoyed this experience. You're in for a beautiful treat when you play Uncharted 4. Now, there are a bunch of different additions. A chief among them, I think, is the frame rate bump ups and the resolution bump ups. You can actually play this game in Performance Plus mode all the way up to 120 frames per second if you've got the right kind of television. There's a performance or fidelity choice that you make in the graphics rendering, and fidelity will give you 4K at 30 frames per second, and performance will give you 60 frames per second from a 1440p kind of base that is then upscaled. And I definitely preferred the performance mode. I played almost 90% of the game in performance mode. I don't have a 120 frames per second television set that I could try out the Performance Plus mode anyway right now, but performance mode, 60 frames per second, just felt really vital and lifelike, and everything was just popping off the screen, and it just felt fluid and fast. And when I bumped down to fidelity mode, I did notice there was a little bit more finer detail in the environmental stuff and the clothing on the characters and the pores on the faces, but it didn't make the gameplay more fun. It really felt sluggish, bouncing from 60 to 30 frames per second. 60 was a great sweet spot. Looked great. Lighting effects, visual effects, incredible. The same is true for both Uncharted Thieves End and Uncharted Lost Legacy, where you play as Chloe Fraser partnered up with Nadine, and you are going on a great adventure in India. And what's interesting about this game is that Naughty Dog decided to take some cues from some of the open world experiences out there, because reviewers like me and many others were always complaining about, well, the Uncharted games aren't on, open world, and they really should be, because we got seduced by all of these open world games like the Arkham titles and Grand Theft Auto, of course. And so Naughty Dog, which has done open world games with Jak and Daxter before, decided to open things up quite a bit more. So you're going to be in a Jeep traveling all over the place. You're actually looking at a map and trying to find things. A lot of, core design tenets that were then brought over to The Last of Us Part 2, which also was much more wide open feeling experience as well. It's not quite, you can go anywhere you want to, but it does feel like the world opens up quite a bit and you can kind of decide where to adventure on your own kind of timeline. So you can drive over to this corner of the map and deal with the enemies and finding the artifacts and solving the mysteries over here, and then drive over to another part of the map and do the same thing. You know, it's crazy fun. They have the same kind of abilities as Nathan Drake does, and some of the same bickering and quips that you might find between Sam and Nathan are brought over by Chloe and Nadine. Great physicality, great set pieces, and cool action moments.
Oh, that works. Let's find that disc.
They also have the ability to destroy anything that they jump onto, and lots of scrambles and freakouts and sliding down things and saving themselves at the very last moment. Crazy, crazy fun. Now, the big question I think that a lot of PS4 players that have transitioned to PS5 are going to have is it worth the upgrade, to spend the extra dollars to get this upgrade from previously purchased games? I think Uncharted 4 was even part of the PS Plus package when you picked up a PlayStation 5, so it was a free game added to your library if you had a PlayStation 5. I'm a bit torn on this because I really feel like with this film releasing that Naughty Dog and Sony should have kind of planned for that and done something with this new filmed universe that's about to be presented to us and made a new kind of Uncharted experience. But they didn't. These games are absolutely worthy of these upgrades, and the haptic feedback and stuff that you get off the DualSense controller is amazing, and the audio fidelity was insane. It's 3D audio now. So I think the question here is really answered by how much you love these games and how important they are for you to have at their highest fidelity and their most kind of premium type of experience. I don't think that the visuals for both of these games on the PS5, even as they are enhanced, are as mind-blowing and beautiful as The Last of Us Part 2 was for me when I played it on the PlayStation 4 Pro, because it's slightly dated, you know, engine tech and rendering tech with the character models and stuff. They look incredible. They look very, very good in 22 terms, but Naughty Dog has surpassed that. So this isn't quite like they started from scratch, you know, with the look and feel of everything. It really does feel like assets were up-resed and everything was cleaned up for the new rendering capabilities of the PlayStation 5. Also, there is no multiplayer included in this collection. It's the single-player experiences only, and I haven't heard if Sony or Naughty Dog plans to patch this. I don't think they will. I think what they're doing here is just honoring these games and tying it to the time frame of the Uncharted movie coming out. So I really think that this is best suited for people that have never played this particular game before. But I also feel like if you're new to Nathan Drake, you should get the Nathan Drake collection from the PlayStation 4 and play it on your PlayStation 5. I've been streaming Uncharted 3 recently on Twitch, and it still looks great. I mean, it's more dated than this, for sure, but those games are crazy fun, and if you're new to Nathan Drake or the Uncharted games at all, you should start there before you pick up this Legacy of Thieves collection. I am very, very happy that I did play it, though. It is beautiful, and these games definitely stand the test of time, and there is, you know, some emotional weight and some real story value and, you know, thrilling sequence after thrilling sequence in both of these titles. I'm going to give the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection a 9 out of 10.